Welcome back to the Reporter's channel. I had a comment on a video a while back ago. A guy's like, why don't you get graduated pins? Why don't you use these things? And I have all of those to do the gunsmithing that I do. And I actually do gunsmithing too, just so you know, buddy. I do that, and I make my guns better, and they run and function just amazingly. So here's a mag with 6 rounds in it. I'm going to take that out of the gun. Clear, empty, check, and safe. Clear, empty, check, and safe. This gun is empty and safe. As you can see, there's nothing in the chamber, nothing in the mag well. Empty, safe. This is a Glock 17 Gen 4. Alright, so we're going to take this apart. We're going to field strip this. We're going to talk about it tonight. That's all we're going to do. And I'm going to show you how, with what you have at home available to you, and in my pockets, what I carry in my pockets, what you have available to you, you can completely field strip the slide on this gun. Not just the lower. Like, the lower is going to take some tools, some small stuff like that, kind of specialized, and you don't actually have to have those specialized tools to do this. You can actually do it with what you have at home, and that's why this channel is called the Everyday Worker. It's not called the Gun Specialist channel. It's not called because I have specialized tools I can do what I do channel. It's called the Everyday Worker for a reason. The everyday worker, the average guy, the guy that carries whatever in his pockets. I currently have a razor blade that's been sitting in my pockets the last couple of days. I actually haven't been carrying a real knife for a while. For about 2 weeks I've been carrying a razor blade, which is weird for me because I don't usually use these for anything that I do. I do carry these in my trailer and have them on job sites and available to anybody that wants them, but it's not something that's usually in my pocket. Usually what's in my pocket is an actual knife, and the reason for that being is my everyday carry. I don't carry this because, yeah, this is cool, yeah, this is sharp, but it also breaks very easily. You can't pry anything with it, you can't force anything with it, all that kind of stuff, and that's my job. It requires me to do all those things, and my knife is my pry bar sometimes. That's why I buy very expensive knives, and I have a big knife collection. There are, to me, tools. They're not just something sharp to cut anything with. They're tools. This is something sharp to cut something with. Okay, that's all this does for me in my line of work, in my life. A razor blade, or a utility worker, or a box cutter, however you want to call it, only does one thing and one thing for me. It cuts. That's it. That's all it does. So I'm going to show you how, with a razor blade that I'm carrying in my pocket, I can totally field strip this slide of this Glock 17 Gen 4 right here. Okay, so we're going to go put it back on the slide. We're going to step by step walk ourselves through it, okay? Clear, empty, safe. Clear, empty, safe. Double check. Triple check by checking the mag well, making sure there's no rounds seated in there for somehow, in some way. There is a possibility, but sometimes it could happen. I've never seen it personally myself, but it could possibly happen. So take your ammo or your mag out of the gun, check it, clear it, check it, clear it. And I like to do a fancy thing where I eat the ammo that way, because now it's no longer a problem or anywhere near where I'm working. So I do that a lot, actually, where I'm working on guns at all. If I'm doing anything with a firearm, I usually do not have any ammo whatsoever on the table or near where I'm at. Only time I do is when I'm doing function checks, such as extractor checks and or feed checks, such as if this gun will run with this hollow point versus that hollow point, on a slow press check versus a rapid recycle. I mean, that's the kind of thing where I check it. So we're going to go ahead and disassemble this. On a Glock, every single Glock, you cannot have the trigger actuated or the firing pin back. Okay, so there's a firing pin in here, which we're going to get to in a minute. That firing pin has now been cocked, and then when I pull the trigger, the firing pin goes forward. That click is what you hear, is the firing pin going forward, the trigger releasing the firing pin going forward and hitting the primer, and so on and so forth. So with a Glock, you cannot have the trigger depressed or ready to fire for disassembly. It does not help you at all whatsoever. Like, I cannot take this gun apart. Here's the disassembly pins. There's one on left and right. You just pinch between your forefinger and your thumb, and you pull down. Okay, you can't do that like it will move. It just moved. I can't show you that. I wish I could. I get too fat of hands, but the slide will not let go. Now I just depress the trigger without cocking the trigger. I'm gonna pull this. So put it this way. Trigger's been recocked, right? There's actually a clicky here. Right there. That click that you just heard, let's do it again. So you'll see the slide come back and it's going to make some noise, and then you're going to hear a secondary click. So slide's been set. That click right there is the trigger resetting. Okay? That's the front bit. So what you do is you press, take the strain off the slide, you grab these two slide disconnect safeties, pinch and pull down, and let the slide go forward. Now you got to remember, you cannot have the trigger cocked to disassemble a Glock. Trigger cannot be activated, will not go click, will not go bang. So you try to disassemble that, you end up shooting yourself in the fucking leg, like some people do. There's a video out there. Excuse my language, it's the truth. Anyhow, moving on from that point, you're going to take your recoil spring out. Easy to do. It's a graduated dual recoil spring. Pretty easy to do. This one's aftermarket. That is a competition recoil spring. So you just lift your barrel up by putting your finger against it in the middle there, and you pull back. That's all it is to that. The barrel's out. Barrel's out, clean and safe. Now, you get to the back of the gun, and if you look at the back of the gun, if you see, there's this little tiny half moon right here where you see silver, that little tiny half moon. You're going to take the tip of your pin, your knife, whatever it is you have, which, by the way, I have the pins for this. I'm not doing this with pins for a freaking reason. It's called the Everyday Workers channel, bud. Alright? So all you're going to do is you're going to take your knife and you're going to press it into that silver pin line. Okay? Press. And then as you press, you're going to put your thumb right here against these beautiful ribs that they make for you. And you're going to press that back. And push down into the slide and press back to yourself or back to your right. I do this from left to right, so I usually press down and over. Down and over. Now, what I do that for is reason. The firing pin is under tension. There's a giant spring in here holding the firing pin that way, against the cartridge, against the primer, against it, that direction. Giant spring, really heavy, not something to play with. The reason for that being is as you cock the gun, say my hand was a lower, you cock the gun, all right, so you slide it back, come back. It's now, the trigger is now holding the firing pin back here instead of here. Well, it's not that far, but it's holding it from here to there. And so what happens is you go past the trigger spring or the trigger sear, and as the slide comes forward, the trigger sear catches it on the sear on the firing pin and holds the firing pin back until you pull the trigger. Once you pull the trigger, it falls forward, the sear is released, and the fire pin goes forward, hitting the primer, igniting the powder, and blowing the bullet out the end of the barrel. Common sense stuff, how a gun works. So I'm going to do this so you guys can see this in a way that you can see this. So I'm going to take this knife, I'm going to put it against that half moon, that little half moon silver, as you see right there. You can see if the slide is up, not this one, this tiny one. There's a notch in the plastic made for it. So what you can do is you can take your knife, depress that. You're going to take your thumb, and I don't know if you can see that. I'm trying to make it so you can see it. My thumb is right against that plastic, moving that plastic forward. That's all it is. And I just broke the very tip of my blade, because razor blades are not made for pry barring. Oh my gosh. It does not want to fit in there with that kind of plastic. That's the last thing I want to do. There we go. I think maybe I got it that time. Okay, there's another cheat code. It doesn't want to go because the razor blade is just cutting the plastic, so I don't want to damage my gun in the process. But if you look very closely right here, you see this? This is the firing pin sear, okay? That is the firing pin sear right there. That lever, when it just pulled up right there, that is what allows that to catch the trigger spring. See it just fall, see it come up, see it fall, see it come up. Now, I know this one has some GSR in there. You have to excuse me, I haven't cleaned this one in a minute. But what you're missing is that little bit thing right there. That little bit thing right there, that black thing you're seeing right there, that collar, that's plastic. Okay, so we're gonna pull back on that plastic right there. Put the blade in there, pull down on it. Ooh, yeah. As soon as I pull down on it, notice the back is coming out. As soon as I pull down on that, the back is coming out. Now I'm gonna ride this with my thumb. I'm just gonna keep it right there in place. Over top of that, pull that plastic out. Now, my thumb just captured the firing pin. As you can see, there's a housing for it, the circle in the middle, the housing for it. Now, I'm gonna pull that out. This is your firing pin. So all I did was right here by the trigger spring, or the sear spring, the firing pin sear, all I did was press this plastic down a little bit, allowing this not to ride in the housing of the back plastic, or the guard stop, right here. So, tiny pieces, sorry, it's covered in lube. Alright, so, anyhow, it sits here, you got your housing, that sits there, and holds it, okay? Like, it legitly holds it, that's made for that, so. I don't know if I do it from this direction, if you guys can actually see it, like, that housing fits this ring right there, okay? So just pull this plastic down a little bit, allowing me to slide the back stop blade off. Now the firing pin's out. Now if I wanted to, I could take the extractor out if I wanted to, because with a Glock, it's super easy. All you do is you need to press your extractor spring. Actually, on some Glocks, let's put it this way. On all but the micro Glocks, you just tilt the gun back, okay? And I depress this spring. You don't have to, but I do, because it makes it easier for the pin to come out. There's a pin ride right there coming out of the right side, the back of the gun. Okay, as you can see, it is coming out towards us right here. We're gonna pull that pin rod out. The spring is on the back end facing you. As you can see, this has a shelf on it. Let's see if I can't get you to focus. This is a plunger, a straight plunger. This is your vehicle's extractor, or is extractor plunger. That's what this is. So that flat end bar that you're looking at right there, it's just a flat end bar. Okay, that presses up against this right here. Now I'll show you, because I'm gonna put it back in the gun so you can see what you're doing, what I'm doing. So you just show up. See it show up? See that little bit of silver right there? And watch, it's gonna disappear. Just disappeared. I pull this back, pull that out, and that lays in the gun right there. And that actually presses against the extractor. And the extractor runs off a secondary pin system, which is this internal housing pin system, which is, I'm gonna press it now, it's spring loaded. I'm gonna press it down, and I'm gonna pull the extractor out. And I'm actually gonna use my knife just because I have big fat fingers. Now remember, I'm pressing this with my finger right here. It's under spring tension. So all I do is just push this forward because I have big fat fingers, and pull my extractor out. Now I'm gonna slightly pull back, tilt the gun upside down, give it a good smack, and there's my extractor set pin. My extractor set pin with its spring. Super small and tiny, and it's got a shelf in it. And what it does is it actually rides in the gun this way. So if the gun was facing correctly, the right direction, the extractor would be on the right side. Obviously, almost all extractors on the right side. And as you can see, let me put it this way. And that way, I'm gonna hold that. Put that down for a second. This extractor is very unique. You see the double shelf right here? There's two shelves and a flat bar right here. That double shelf is to grab the edge of a casing and pull it out of the chamber and pop it off to the right as the slide comes back to load in a new round. That steps onto a casing, steps onto a round. It just hooks onto the edge of it, and that's what holds it. And that's why it's called lipped cartridges, because they have a lip that this holds and sits on. Now I got some GSR on this one. That's pretty ugly. But that's how it goes in. Excuse me again. Sorry. I had the burps. But this sits in there, and that's what, if you can see the notch in it, right there. That notch in the middle is made to receive the extractor as it rides around. It rides around that. So, and that's what keeps it pressed into the slide. So to put it back, it's really super. Now this is just a hunk of metal. There's a hole cleanly through this that I can actually see you. You can't see me, but I can actually see you. There's a hole cleanly through this. Let's see if I can't make it so you can see me. See that? Hole cleanly through this thing. So what you're looking at is where the firing pin runs. All that good stuff. And the firing pin is not round. It is slotted. Slotted. Okay? So that's how that works. And reverse order, put it right back together. We're not even talking about the lower, because the lower is just plastic and springs and metal pieces mounted in plastic. So like, I just reset the trigger, fire it, reset the trigger, fire it. Now this works in tandem with the slide, so you require the slide to make this work and go bang. So obviously gun manufacturers are smart that way, and then they design it to work that way. So in reverse order, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the extractor, reset, spring load. I'm going to put it in that hole that's right there. Okay, the hole it fits in. Spring up towards the top of the slide, by the way. Spring up. I'm going to put it in there. And as you can see, it's in there now. And you see how I pinch it? The part that's made to notch around goes in there. Alright, we're going to take our extractor. We're going to put it back in the gun, the correct direction. Pretty easy to do. Only one side goes one way. And all I did was just slide it back in there and let go. So again, we'll just do it here so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to pull that out of there. I'm with my hand because I got big fat fingers. All I'm doing is pressing on that little button. Pressing on it. That's all I'm doing is pressing on it. I'm going to take the rear of the extractor, which is this big round piece here, not the double step line. The double step line is going to face towards the end of the barrel. And I'm just going to slide that back in there. Oh, I missed. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm going to slide that back in there. And I'm going to let go. I hold it flush and I just let go with my thumb. That's all it is. It's now in there. It's not going anywhere. Now I'm going to take my extractor push pin. I'm going to slide it back down in this little hole on the right. This little hole on the right here. Made for the pin. Slide it down. Spring to the back, by the way. Spring is always facing you. If you're holding the gun upright, the spring is facing you. Okay? So we're going to put that back in there. We're going to take our firing pin. We're going to slide it right back in its housing. The big giant housing in the middle there. Okay? Now, this is where it gets tricky putting the back on. It gets a little tricky. So we're going to work this through stage by stage with you and me. Okay? So I had to pull down this little piece of plastic right there, as you can see, to pull the plastic down out of the way here. That plastic is still sticking up, right? Still in my way. But so is the extractor guide rod or the extractor firm pin. Still in my way, right? This is your big obstacle. Let's get rid of that first. So all we're going to do is we're going to take our backing, make sure it's the right direction. Obviously, it only goes on one way. And we're going to get it in line. I'm going to take my thumb, hold it in line like this. Okay, as you can see, it has step rails on the side. Okay, has rails that it slides into in the back of the receiver here. Goes right into those rails right there. So we're gonna slide that in, get it lined up, slide it in, start it. It started. Oh, almost started, but it started. So we're going to put pressure on that, and all we're going to do is, you see that big giant circle right? I don't know if you guys can see that. It's hard to see. See that plastic right there sticking up? That's probably a really good angle right here. I'm going to take and I'm going to press down on this plastic right here, so the backing slides forward. I got to do it vertically just because I don't want to cut it. And this is a brand new knife blade, so like it's super sharp. And I don't want to do anything with this gun and damage the recoil or the firing bit. My thumb was pressed too hard against it. Excuse me, sorry. It was sticking to my thumb. Anyhow, I'm going to slide that in there like so. Just make sure my serrations are facing me and not the round circle. Okay, because obviously round circle goes in the gun. So I'm going to make that face inside the gun. I'm going to put my thumb on that. I'm going to press down on this plastic. All I'm doing is pressing down on that plastic. Just trying to do it with the blade of the knife because the blade of the knife is very sharp. There we go. Use the back of the knife. The non-sharp side. I'm not getting it far enough. There we go. I got it far enough down. Now, once you get that point, so once you depress that big plastic piece, it will come up and hit the firing pin extractor rod right here, which is the spring. And that little bitty circle that you see right there, that little circle you see right there, all you can do is press that down, straight down. That's all I'm doing. I'm pressing the backer up while holding it. It's locked in. It's in place. You heard the snap. Now I'm gonna line it back up with my lower. Oh, might help if I put the barrel and the guide rod back in. There we go. So sorry, I gotta hit myself. Put the barrel back in. Talking about the small parts, and I just got way too far advanced on myself. Barrel slides in. Guide rod only goes one direction. And it drops into the housing up front. Line it up. Goes in. Goes on. Back up to the lower. Now I feel like an idiot because I did that, and I'm sorry. Function test. Function test. Function test. Lock it back. Cool. Fires. And then you're in business. So with a pocket knife or a utility knife, I can totally field strip my upper. Now my lower, I don't know. I know that I need some small screwdrivers to do the trigger spring reset and push the pins out left to right on this gun, because these are the pins that do the trigger housing here and the main housing up top. And there's one back here in the rear that does the rear housing here that sits in the back side of the slide, and these functions the trigger set spring series. But other than having a stick or a Allen key, you could do so. So yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Everybody has a problem with me using hand tools to show you how at any time and any occasion with what you have and where you are, you can make something happen. And I'd like to say that I'm not pretending to be MacGyver, but at the same time, MacGyver was on the right path. And I'm not talking about the new MacGyver. I'm talking about the old one with Richard B. Anderson. The original MacGyver. Damn good show. So, thanks for watching the Rick Warriors channel. Hope you guys learned something about your gun today. I'm going to probably try to make another video here soon and probably get some shooting in done too. So, explore the aspects of different calibers and the reactionary force on target, which I have the weird calibers and the uber weird guns, which I find amazing to me. I just don't have a lot of money to go buy the weird ones, because the weird ones apparently cost a lot more money. I have some weird ones. I spent a lot of money on those, but put a video of that out there and show the difference in how they react to certain things, different than what everybody else is doing. Everybody's using ballistic gel and stuff, and that's cool, don't get me wrong. If you want to know what it's going to do to the human body, but if I could show you what it's going to do to steel first, you might change your mind about shooting a human body with that, or a human body might change its mind about being shot by it. So anyhow, thanks for watching the Rick Warriors channel. We'll see you guys in the next video. You stay safe.